Good morning. Good morning. Great to have you here. Make sure you let me know when you're here. Say hello. And I am so excited to be here with you. All right. Here we go. Let me pause just a moment. Good morning. Good morning. Please say hello when you get here. Let me know that you're here. I'm super excited to be here this morning. And tech has been a bit of an issue this morning. Not sure what the deal is. Great to have you here. First time I've ever had this experience in this way, but here I am. So glad to have you here this beautiful morning. It's a little chilly, but it is beautiful. And the thing that I want to say to start with is let's celebrate for just a moment the fact that we are here right now, the fact that we have technology to enable us to do this, the fact that we woke up this morning. And that's a big one, right? To acknowledge and celebrate the fact that we woke up. There are so many people that did not. And I want to honor the fact that I did. And I'm eternally grateful. And I hope you are as well. So I'm going to dive into the affirmation and journal prompt this morning. And I want to share. I had as always, I was listening to some different things on YouTube, and I listen to podcasts, and I'm reading books, and I'm doing all the things. And as a transformational coach and a hypnotist, I'm always looking for what is that thing that's going to help move us from the inside, right? Because what's happening out there is just a reflection of what's going on in here. Whether we realize it or not, whether we want to admit it or not, it's fact. And so what really got me to thinking is, I'm in a place right now in menopause where I am changing the way I eat to better support my body for menopause. And there's some tweaking and different things that I'm working on right now to make it better for my health, right? But we a lot of times, especially as you get into the new year, are looking for ways to work on our bodies. We have these goals for how much weight we want to lose, what size clothes we want to be in, and maybe where we want our business to go. But do we really sit back and look at what are we feeding our mind? What is our mental diet like? Right. And that's really, really important to think of, because remember, what goes in is actually what brings about all the things. And we talk about this a lot in this group on this channel of how we have 50 billion bits of information coming at us per second. And that we are only privileged to see, or our brain is so magnificent, it filters out all the things that do not pertain to us. And so we get 2,000 bits per second. And so when you think about that big disconnect of those numbers, it's huge, right? But we could not be seeing all the things that are going on because our brains would just overload, because there would be too many things to constantly be changing and noticing. And so our brilliant minds filter out what doesn't seem important to us, what doesn't feel like it would be good to know. It filters out the things that maybe we've tried before and we decided that that's not for us. There's all kinds of things that create our filters. from the things that happened when we were young, the things that people said to us, the things that we interpreted incorrectly, because not always is it meant as something that's bad when people say things. As a child, we do not have the filter that lets us know sarcasm from truth, right? And so we have a very skewed idea of what our ourselves are when we're paying attention to all of that, right? And so our 2000 bits get to be really, really filtered in an odd way sometimes. Sometimes I like to say it's like I put Vaseline on my glasses and I can only see certain things because I've got it so coated that I can't see, right? And we've done that a lot with the things that have happened in our lives and how we interpret them. It's not always the thing that is the issue, it's our interpretation of it. And the things that we feed our mind with when we're watching TV, when we're listening to songs, when we're listening to people, when we're all the things we do are our mental diet, right? And so we want to start paying attention to what our mental diet is, because that's the thing that changes our 2000 bits. So if our mental diet is filled with doom and gloom, and our mental diet is filled with all the things that are wrong in the world and all the horrible things that people can do, because let's face it, there are horrible things that people can do, but there are also amazing things that people do. Which one are we focusing on, right? And so if we're only focusing on all the bad things of the world, what do you think our 2000 bits are going to be? It's going to be even more bad stuff to see, to enforce, or to agree with what our thoughts are. So if we think the world's a horrible place and it's a dangerous place and everybody's out to get me, we are going to attract and we're going to recognize that in our environment every single day, every single second, right? And so we want to just be looking at what our mental diet is. So let me share the affirmation for today. I am feeding my mind with thoughts that support my dreams and vision. My mental diet is filled with positivity, focus, and belief in what's possible. That's very different from focusing on what's wrong, right? So we can either see the water on the ground as like a horrible thing because it's wet and I got to get out in it, or we can see it as, oh my gosh, the clouds have opened up and they're bringing rain so that it nourishes the soil and all the trees, and the flowers are going to be gorgeous and the leaves are going to be beautiful on the trees. We can look at it as a thing that feeds us or as something that inconveniences us. Does that make sense? So we get to choose how we view the things. Like, I've made a point that I do not watch the news. And that's just the way I do things, because that helps protect my mind. Because I had an experience a few years ago that really helped me see how the media is. And I had a client who was asking me, did I know any, she worked for the news, for the TV station. She was on the news and she was one of the anchors, and she went out and talked to people, right? And she would do the interviews and all kinds of things. And she asked me, she said, my producer has asked me to find some stories to share for Christmas. Do you have any stories? And I said, yes. I said, as a matter of fact, I had a client recently who this man and woman that were married. The woman was my client. They only had one car and they had several children, and he was a teacher. And so it was a very inconvenient thing that she either had to take him to work or she had to be without the car. And it was just a lot. And the school that he worked at one day called this big meeting in the auditorium. And so he goes with all the students, and he thought it was just a big rally about an upcoming thing that was going on at the school. But it turned out it was a celebration of his work at the school, of how everybody loved him as an amazing teacher. And everybody, the students, the parents, the teachers, had all come together and gathered money up and had bought him a car so that he and his wife each had a vehicle, so that it was so much easier for her to take care of the kids, for him to get to work. And they knew the problems they were having with it. And so I shared this with her, and she said, well, can I interview her? And so I reached out to the client and I asked her if I could share her name. She said yes. So she went and interviewed her. She did the whole thing. And she explained to me, she said, it's going to be so amazing, but it never aired because her producer ended up saying, we can't use that because right now we're needing some ratings and we've got to have something that's very controversial. This will not get us ratings. And so they didn't do anything with it. And that's just one little instance in my little world, right? And so it really made me aware that a lot of times there are amazing, beautiful things that are happening in the world. Most of the time there are, but nobody's talking about it on the news because it doesn't get ratings. What gets ratings? All the strife, all the confusion, the fear, all of those things have people glued to the TV. And when I realized that, that's when I thought, well, I'm not going to partake in that anymore, because even though sometimes the morning news would have a couple of little feel-good stories, they would get buried under the magnitude of horror that they would share. And so I quit watching the news. And oh my gosh, did it free up my life, because I finally got to a place where I said, if it's not something that affects me directly and there's nothing I can do to change it, then why is it important for me to know? I would rather watch something that tells me about the wonders of everything. Because remember, what we focus on is what changes our 2000 bits. And I choose to do mine without the news. And I have had people tell me that, don't you want to know what's going on in the world? No, maybe not. I want to know certain things, but I don't have to watch the news to get it. People are constantly really excited to tell me about things that are bad that go on in the world because they want to make sure I know. But I listen and I'm kind, and then I move on, because I want my mental diet to be filled with positivity, focus, and belief in what's possible for me, for you, for the world. I don't want it to be filled with all the terrible things that happen constantly, because there's also beautiful things that happen constantly. So why do we want to focus on all the things that are bad? So I'm inviting you to rethink. I'm not saying you shouldn't watch the news. That's up to you. But if it's something that just keeps you stressed, because I have a client now that gets so stressed all the time, but she's watching the news and getting scared or getting upset and constantly on the TV about the news. And so I asked her one day, I said, does it feel good to know all that stuff? And she said, no. She said, it's horrible. And I said, then why do you do it? She said, I don't know. She said, I just feel like I'm supposed to know all this. So you get to choose. Do you want to be upset and aggravated and angry about the world? Or do you want to start seeing some beauty and joy in it? You get to choose where you focus, right? So again, the affirmation for today is I am. And remember, anything that comes after the words I am is ultra powerful. You're claiming it. That is you, right? I am feeding my mind with thoughts that support my dreams and my vision. My mental diet is filled with positivity, focus, and belief in what's possible. Mwah, right? Delicious. And I want that for you. And I hope you want that for yourself as well. And so you can put that on your index card, a screensaver on your phone, put it on your sticky notes, put it on a note, stick it to the fridge so that today you remember to be more mindful of what you're feeding your mental diet. All right, so now I'm going to go to the journal prompt. Let me share that. Our journal prompt is, what kind of mental diet have you been on lately? So this is a way to just evaluate. And I'll be honest, I've been watching a show on TV that is one of those detective shows. So, and it's nice to see. And part of it's because there's a do-gooder that's trying to help everybody, but it is also focused on all the bad things, right? And so I'm playing with that, and that I know it's not real. And so I'm only focusing on the fact that there's someone there to solve the issues that other people can't solve. But you can choose that. You choose if it's causes anxiety in you, don't do it, right? So for whatever reason, this show has me feeling that it is amazing that someone will reach out and help people that they do not know. They'll reach out and help people that are really having a hard time, and they don't charge for it, that any of that stuff, because they want to help these people. But this person has money, so it's not like they're in dire straits and they need the money. But that's the beauty of when you get to be financially abundant with your business, then you can share your gifts and talents for free anytime you want to, right? So there's so much about that I love, even though it's intermixed with some of these bad things that are happening. And so it doesn't cause anxiety in me. But one of the interesting things is I can watch shows sometimes that have a lot of angst, and some of it's dishonesty that's going on and things like that, that will really get me worked up, as far as I'll feel a lot of anxiety about what's happening or what's about to happen. And those, as soon as that starts happening, I get away from it. And so you've got to pick and choose, what do you want in your mental diet? And I will say that that show that I'm watching is a very little tiny piece of the material that I allow into my mind. Not to say that it still doesn't matter, but it has a spin on it for me that feels like it's good information, right? So you decide. Only person who can is you. So what kind of mental diet have you been on lately? Just look at it, evaluate it. Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel like the world's a wonderful place? Does it make you feel anxious and afraid? What is it doing? Write down the thoughts you want to feed your mind to fully support the amazing life you're creating. So what kind of thoughts do you want to be having? That's important to know, right? Where do you want your 2,000 bits to be coming from? Like I've shared before, if you have two people in a moving vehicle in the back seat, and they're both looking on the one side of the road, they're both looking at the same place. It's not like one's looking on the left side and one's looking on the right. They're both looking on the same side. And one of those people has a great outlook on life. They think that the world is an amazing place and there's beauty everywhere, and that people are there to support you, and that the world is supporting them, right? And then the other person feels like the world is out to get them, that people are out to get them, and that there is just horror around every corner, that the world is not safe, people are unkind. They have all those thoughts, right? So the one that feels that people are unkind, the world is out to get them, as they look on that same side of the road, they're going to notice the dilapidated house. They're going to notice the fence that needs repair. They're going to notice the flowers that haven't been tended to, the dead animal on the street, the trees that look like they need help. They're going to notice those things, right? But the other person who feels like the world is an amazing place and they're grateful to be part of it and everything's beautiful, well, not everything, but things are beautiful, right? When they're looking at, they notice the newly painted shutters. They notice the sky being so magnificent color, the flower colors that they see. They notice the people that are walking their dogs. They notice the things that feel good, right? They're both looking at the same thing, but seeing different things depending on their lens of the world. And so you get to choose what you want to see and what you want to feel. So this is your invitation to write down the types of thoughts you want to feed your mind to fully support the amazing life you're creating. Because your thoughts, your internal dialogue, it's not what you're saying to other people that makes the biggest difference. It's what you're saying to yourself. What you're allowing other people to say that you bring in as truth, as your truth, your facts. So I invite you today to pick, what kind of life do you want to be living? All right, let's go back to our affirmation. Do you want to be living a life where your thoughts support your dreams and your vision? And then you just have this feeling and of being filled with positivity, focus, and belief in what's possible. What's possible? How is this possible? Make it. It's possible, right? Where do I feel there are possibilities everywhere? And how can I make it more so? And then the journal prompt again. What kind of mental diet have you been on lately? What's it showing you? What is it producing in your environment? And no matter whether you're in a place where you're feeling your mental diet's pretty good and things are happening pretty well, even if you're there, I still would invite you to look at your mental diet. Are you really, really focused on your mental diet and what you're feeding it? Because no matter where we are in our lives, no matter how low we are or how high we are, we can always expand our horizons and the joy that we have inside, and that will reflect even more in our environment. So I invite you, as I do all the time, to get out your notebook or your journal, put the date, the affirmation, in the journal prompt. Then spend 10 to 15 minutes in total silence. You've written it down, release it from your mind. Just sit and set the timer, quiet your mind, and just be, right? In total silence. And what that does is it helps you get in touch with your inner guidance, your God voice, your intuition, the things that guide you that most of the time we're not listening to. We've got so much chatter going on in our mind and so many thoughts about our to-do list and all these things, that these little thoughts that will pop up, we just kind of wash them away. And I want to invite you to spend that time in silence so that you can be open to all the possibilities that come up for you. So when your timer goes off, 10 to 15 minutes, that's when you get out your pen and you just write out, what kind of mental diet have you been on lately? What has it been? Just write out whatever comes up. And then write down the thoughts you want to feed your mind to fully support the amazing life you're creating. And the reason I love to have you do the affirmation, the journal prompt, and the date is that I want you to have a way to see how far you've come. So you do this today, and then in 3 months, you come back and you look and see, what was it that I wanted my mind to be creating? What was I wanted to feed my mind, right? And you can see how you've been able to incorporate those thoughts and those feelings into your world and how it's changed things. Because we don't change anything out here permanently until we've changed things in here. It's just like, no matter where you go, there you are, right? You're taking yourself everywhere you go. It's the thoughts and the feelings that you have that attract the people to you and the situations to you. So if any little tiny part of you wishes something would change, start here and then come back in 3 months and see how things have changed for you. All right. So this has been a beautiful morning to share with you, and I am so grateful to be here. I will see you tomorrow in the Stand Up and Stand Out community at 2 p.m. Eastern. And so anyone who is watching the replay or here live that would like to be part of the Stand Up and Stand Out community, all you have to do is go to VickyPoole.com, VICKIEPOOLE.com, and you'll be prompted to answer 3 questions, and you have to answer all 3 questions as the price of admittance. And once you do, you'll be in the group and you will get so much benefit from it. And I would also like to say that anyone who wants one-on-one help from me, all you have to do is I will put my calendar in the comments, and you can reach out and we can have a 15-minute conversation to see where you are in your life, where you want to be, and if that's something that I can help you with. But I will be honest, if I can't help you, I have a plethora of people in my index book. How old am I, right? My index book, to share your information or share with you their information. So if I can't help you, I know someone who can. So definitely reach out. And thank you. I say Benjamin. What does that say? Benjamin. Yes. Thank you, Benjamin. All right. So you have an amazing day today, filling your mental diet with powerful, powerful food. And I will see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. Mwah.